Ho, 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 gentlemen. The holidays have come early this year as Manscaped have the gift that keeps on trimming. Santa's beard isn't so appealing when it's coming out of your trousers, and that's why Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have you covered this holiday season. Now available in your country, join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped to keep their trees trimmed and ornaments polished. Go to manscaped.com and use code DTR for 20% off plus free shipping.
Stafford under pressure, and a tuck it, and he's in! Darrell Henderson, he's off and running! Has Woods, touchdown! Cooper Kupp just went up and took it away.
Van Jefferson for the touchdown.
Aaron Donald smothers him. Jalen Ramsey with the pop-up. Sacked by Leonard Floyd, having a day again.
Darius Williams with a diving hit. Jordan Fuller comes up with his second interception of the night.
All right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm your host, Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host, Jake Ellenbogen, and we are coming to you the day after our Los Angeles Rams won a wild card playoff game against our division rival, the Arizona Cardinals, in Los Angeles, 34-11. And guys, it was a phenomenal game. I'm not going to lie to you. Jake and I were talking off air, and I've talked to a couple other people. My opinion on this game is that this was the Rams' most complete game this season. This season, guys, in an NFC wildcard game, a game where I'm sure nerves were high, the pressure was really put on them, very intense environment, and guys, we did not crack. I truly, Jake, believe that this was the best game the Rams have played this season, which is so exciting because we're now in the playoffs and this is when it matters most. I mean, just from offense to defense to special teams, everything was perfectly executed. There was very few mistakes, and I just thought we played really, really well. And you know, I just think the energy right now is so positive and everyone is so excited. And it was just so awesome to see, especially against a division rival. No matter who you play in the playoffs, it's intense, but it's even more so when you're playing a team in your division. Jake, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, so Alexis, I needed that. I was very happy with the game. I didn't have to stress about it. It just, it was really, like we were talking about off air, it was their most complete game yet. Really thought, when you talk about all three phases and winning in all three phases, this is what you talk about. Special teams, you have your boy and a guy that I like a lot, Ben Skoranek, getting that huge down at the one. Just a great job by him on special teams. You had some good returning, obviously, not a ton of opportunities, but you had some good returns out of Brandon Powell. And so, I think when you have that momentum from your defense, you have a good special teams unit, and then your offense is able to move the ball the way they did. You're going to win most games and you have to feel really good. And I think really, Alexis, what we just saw was what could have happened had they kept that same momentum that we were talking about in the first half of the Niners game into the second half. I mean, really, it's going to be hard to beat a team that plays like this any night. And so now, they get prepared for Tampa. Going to be a tough game on the road, but the Rams have won the last two matchups against Tom Brady with the Bucs. So we'll see. But this was definitely, just what the doctor ordered. We talked about getting, Odell involved a little bit more. And, I did mention, the potential of, okay, Cooper Kupp, like what happens with him? Is he more of a decoy? Do they try to shut him down? Because I just look at this team and it's a pick your poison approach. Yeah, you want to stop Cooper Kupp. Now you're going to have to stop Odell. You want to stop Odell. Now you have to stop Van Jefferson. You want to stop those three. We still have Tyler Higbee. And then on top of it, oh, by the way, you also have to stop Cam Akers and Sony Michel. Thought Stafford played incredibly well. Wasn't asked to do a ton. And really the only incompletions I believe he had were all dropped, except for I think one. He won the big game. This is a big game. Won the big game, won his playoff game, and now he goes up against a team next week that he's 4-2 against all time. So the Rams have to feel good about this. Anytime you go up against a division rival, obviously anything can happen. But Kyler Murray had the dynamic ability to break open this game at any time, and the Rams just made sure he couldn't. And on top of it, They didn't have Jordan Fuller in the back end of their secondary. They didn't have Taylor Rapp. I took the over in this game. And to be honest with you, I think most people did. I think, the Arizona Cardinals I think the over-under for their total score was 22.5 for their points. And I thought they would score more than that. I had 31-24, but this was a dominant performance from the Rams, and I wasn't shocked either. I said, this is either going to be a close win or the Rams are going to come out and, win this game in a blowout. And that's what they did. And honestly, Alexis, the great thing about this is they could win by a lot more. They could put together a way better offensive game plan and, score those. I think there was a lot of calls that shouldn't have been made. They were very ticky-tack. I mean, the officiating this weekend, this whole wildcard weekend, was just showcased at how poor it is in this league and how much better it has to get. And so, I think when you look at, however many yards, I think it was over 50 yards of total offense that was taken away from Cam Akers on penalties. You look at the fact that, Stafford misses Cam Akers on, that 40-plus yard throw. Those guys are not on the same page yet. Akers just came back. He had 95 total yards. There are so many good things that happened with this game for the Rams. Von Miller blowing up like, I mentioned he could. Just seeing everybody play collectively, as a unit. Our guy Terrell Burgess, friend of the show, making play after play. This is just it's a really good win. And, obviously you have to win this game. To me, this is the best team in the league. And, losing in this first round, obviously at home would have been a major, not a bummer, but it would have been a disgrace, honestly, and would have been a losing season, would have been a disappointment. But, the way they won the game, I don't think many people thought was going to happen. So this is just a great win. And you just hope that they can really start to, carry this momentum moving forward. Because this was different, Alexis. This was like the Bills version of their dominant performance against the Patriots. I understand they didn't have 7 scores on 7 opportunities, but, they dominated the Cardinals. And this game could have been a lot worse than 34-11.
Yeah, I mean, just like we've been saying, all around dominating performance. And, you mentioned Kyler Murray, because Kyler Murray was a concern. Obviously, anytime you go against the Cardinals, you have to account for Kyler Murray, because just what he's done this season, being, the mobile quarterback that he is, as well as, passing. But I think one of his biggest strengths is just being able to run through defenses. So that was a concern. And the Rams did a very good job early of putting the pressure on him and locking him down. And there was a lot of times during this game, I mean, the vast majority of this game, I would say, Kyler Murray looked really panicked. He looked very lost. He looked like he didn't know what was going on. And I think a large part of that was due to the Rams defense getting inside his head. Listen, it does speak a lot when quarterbacks don't have playoff experience. Kyler Murray, that was his first playoff game. And that was something I'm sure that the Rams and the coaching staff at the Rams were aware of. They wanted to put the pressure on him early. They wanted to make it difficult for him. And that's exactly what they did. So that was very cool to see that the Rams defense really, 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 made things tough on Kyler Murray in that offense. When I was, making my prize picks, I was talking to you about this, Jake. On prize picks, you have to make picks for both teams. And I was really bummed that I had to pick receptions for Arizona Cardinals players, because I was happy that the Rams did such a good job of locking them down, but I didn't get any money off of them, which I'm more than okay with, because we got the win. Just absolutely phenomenal job from the Rams. So Jake, while we're on this note, I want to talk about the Rams defense in this game. We saw Von Miller with a sack, Aaron Donald with a sack. We saw Marquise Copeland with an interception, David Long with the pick 6. I mean, Jake, in my opinion, our defense has really pulled us through a majority of the games this season. I mean, our offense, let's face it, has been pretty up and down, as has Stafford. It's been very inconsistent. Obviously, last night they corrected that. But Jake, our defense has really kept us in a lot of games. And last night, even though the offense played really well, it was no exception. Our defense really stepped up, especially because we were missing our 2 starting safeties in Jordan Fuller and Taylor Rapp. Jake, what did you think our defense did last night that sealed this victory for us?
Well, Alexis, I'll say this over and over again. Defense wins championships. And when you're playing at the level that they were at the end of last year, they're playing like that now. You're going to win a lot of games that way. And just, being able to pressure Kyler Murray. You talk about the complementary football, obviously with the special teams unit doing so well, they were backed up in their own, side of the field. And, I just thought the defense just, they never let up. And we talked about that, never letting up. And, it's not just an offensive thing, it's a defensive thing too. Sure, they gave up a touchdown, right? They gave up that one touchdown to James Conner because, he had to have his touchdown. I think dude has over 16 touchdowns or something on the year. But, really what it was on that drive, though, is they let a bunch of clock come off. And I think that was more strategic, if anything. But really, Kyler Murray wasn't able to do anything. Odell Beckham Jr. had a better passer rating than Kyler Murray. Let's put that into perspective. And for a while, he had more yards passing than Kyler Murray. What it comes down to is Kyler Murray, I don't know if he was ready for the spotlight or not, but we don't really know and we'll never know because I think the Rams just did too much to disrupt him. I think any quarterback would have lost this game if the defense was playing the way they were against a Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. They absolutely had to play their best with the fact that, they didn't have Fuller and Rapp. And I thought they really, stepped up. And it just kind of goes to show you, this Raheem Morris defense, I've been defending it all year for a reason. It takes time. This is not the same defense as last year. It's very similar, but it's not the same. It's a new scheme for Raheem. It's not this, completely new for the Rams. They add, Von Miller. That's now somebody you have to acclimate to your scheme. Obviously, he had some familiarity, but he didn't know exactly. And then you're dealing with guys like David Long and Dante Dion having to step up into bigger roles. Troy Reeder, who got benched, is now the green dot. And, Traven Howard is a guy like you and I probably thought he'd start before the season started, and he got hurt and he never really got a chance to. And, now here he is stepping up. I mean, they traded Kenny Young. This would probably be Kenny Young right now. So, I think just the way, Traven Howard stepped up, the way a lot of those guys stepped up, Reeder gets the pressure, David Long with an incredible pick six. That was not thrown directly into him. He had to make that play. Traven Howard had 2 pass breakups. They had, 2 sacks on, Kyler Murray. They pressured him over 10 times. That's how you're going to win football games. Simple as that. They hit him 5 times. They pressured him over 10 times, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss from Von Miller. He was incredible. 6 pass breakups. And, at the end of the day, when you're getting play, like Ashawn Robinson was going sideline to sideline, you could just tell it was just different. They were playing. I mean, Marquise Copeland getting the pick. Things were just working well for the Rams. And that's what happens when you're putting guys in position to succeed. And, these guys are all stepping up because, when a Jalen Ramsey steps up, I mean, that's what he does, on a consistent basis. But when you have the other guys, like you have the Marquise Copelands of the world, coming down with turnovers and, Terrell Burgess steps into that role and plays it very well. Hell, Eric Weddle, I thought played well. He didn't register a tackle, but I thought he was pretty solid. I just think at the end of the day, they got everything that they could have asked for. And I know that coaching staff has to feel really good about the way they played against a tough opponent and, a rival. I mean, Arizona, yeah, the Rams made them look bad, but Arizona had 449 points this season. I mean, they scored a ton. They went 11-6. They're not a slouch, They were tied for second in the NFC West in points allowed. The Rams actually allowed the most points, in the NFC West. So to me, this is a huge way to show you, hey, we're for real. We were for real, before we lost to the Niners. That 5-game, win streak was real. And this just reinforces that.
Yeah. And, real quick, while we are talking about, we were talking about the defense, I want to bring up Raheem Morris. Because that has been kind of a source of contention and debate for Rams fans this season. Raheem is our defensive coordinator. And I want to point out that while we're recording this podcast, it just came out that the Vikings have requested to interview Raheem Morris for their head coaching position. And I expect that many other teams will follow suit and do the same. Now, Jake, I have been one of the biggest, critics of the bend don't break defense this season. I do believe that there have been many instances where it has hurt us, and we have given up touchdowns, with that scheme. However, as the season goes on, I am more inclined to somewhat, like the idea of Raheem staying around for another season. If he doesn't get the opportunity that he wants elsewhere, head coaching, because I do believe, I'm sure that is something that he is interested in and wants and deserves. But if the right opportunity doesn't come along for him, I would love for him to stick around. I'm not saying that I'm on board with the bend don't break defense, because again, I think there's probably at least some tweaks that can be made to it if we don't change the scheme entirely altogether that might be better suited for our defense. But I do want to talk about Raheem Morris and get your thoughts on that, Jake, because that news did come out. Although it is not surprising, it is breaking news.
Prize Picks is the best app you've never heard of. You can choose between stars from all sports, 2, 3, 4, or even 5 players to increase how much money you win. Join Prize Picks today by using our promo code DTRAMS and get a double deposit on your first deposit when signing up with Prize Picks.
Girls, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of finding a bush when I go down in my man's chimney. Dear Santa, all I want this holiday season is for my man to have smooth jingle balls. Thankfully, Manscaped answered with the Performance Package 4.0, so I don't have to find Santa's beard in my man's pants again. Ladies, this holiday season, get your man products that will leave him smelling fresh with their all-new ultra-premium body wash and a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. It's time to give the man in your life the gift of beautiful skin, hair, and balls this holiday season. Go to manscaped.com and use code DTR for 20% off plus free shipping.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm happy for him. I know there's a lot of Rams fans that are going to be bummed because not necessarily Raheem Morris, because for whatever reason, he doesn't get enough credit, but not necessarily Raheem Morris, Alexis. I think a lot of people are just tired of coordinators going out the door. But, this is what happens when you have Sean McVay as the head coach. 2 of the 3, coaching candidates, or 2 of the 3 coaches from his coaching tree are in the divisional round of the playoffs, which is incredible. That means they are quite literally two wins away from going to the Super Bowl. That includes Sean McVay as well. So you look at Matt LaFleur with the Packers, you look at Zach Taylor with the Bengals and what he's done. Brandon Staley was a field goal away. If they miss that field goal or they don't attempt the field goal, he's in the playoffs. So, I mean, Sean McVay, his, track record with his coaching tree is, far beyond what we've seen out of Bill Belichick's. And I mean, he's been around for a while. So being the youngest head coach, 35 years of age, having 2 coaches that are playing in the divisional round, it says a lot. And so, for other teams out there that have seen the success of Zach Taylor and, LaFleur and even Brandon Staley to a degree, they're looking at Raheem Morris, they're looking at Kevin O'Connell, they're looking at Thomas Brown, and they're like, well, why not them? I mean, I'll trust anybody that comes from that McVay background. It's always the joke about McVay, you get a coffee with McVay and you get a head coaching job. But what we don't do enough with him is give him enough credit. It's not necessarily about just Sean McVay and like the look and what he's like. He has really groomed these coordinators to become head coaches. He puts them in situations and scenarios where they're, doing more press work, right? So they're doing more pressers. They're coming up and they're at the podium. I mean, we've seen a lot of Kevin O'Connell this year. He's been at the podium a lot. We've seen some Raheem Morris. I mean, to me, that they don't need to be there. I don't see that very often. I mean, it happens, but it's not a ton. But that Sean McVay is pushing for them because at the end of the day, Sean McVay knows, he can bring in anybody. He truly feels like he can bring in anybody and run a defense, run an offense. He knows so many people in this league. He is the most enticing option by far because he's the youngest head coach who's already been in the playoffs for the last 5 years. And on top of it, has a chance to go to an NFC title game for the second time in his career. and potentially a Super Bowl for the second time in his career. So, there's a lot there. And, when you look at it, it makes a lot of sense. So Sean McVay, there have been guys in the past. Even Jim Leonard from Wisconsin, who was, rumored to be a defensive coordinator candidate for the Rams. He is still out there. So if they were to lose Raheem Morris, he'd be there. You look at, of course, over in Detroit, former cornerback coach Aubrey Pleasant. He's still there. If they don't promote him, he could come back to the Rams. There's so many options to go. Ejiro Evero, who is the secondary coach, he could be an option. The run game coordinator and defensive line coach, Eric Henderson, could be an option. Chris Shula, the linebacker coach. I just think Sean McVay does an incredible job of setting everyone up for success while also realizing that he isn't actually dooming the team by allowing them. When he gets these interviews and stuff requested for him, he's going to give them an opportunity. The only one he's going to block, really, last year he blocked Kevin O'Connell to interview for the offensive coordinator job because it was basically a lateral move. It wasn't in any way. Kevin O'Connell wasn't going to be a head coach. Sure, he probably would have called plays for the Chargers, but he wasn't going to be a head coach. So, McVay looked at it as, well, I need him. And if he's here for another year, likely he could be a head coach. So, I'm a big fan of the way he handles it. I think it's very professional. And, honestly, everything you do is a resume. And I can't stress that enough. And it kind of goes to show you, the way the Rams handle their business with these players. It goes back to simple things with Robert Woods. He misses his incentive bonus. The Rams give it to him anyway. They give incentive bonus for playoff wins to Odell Beckham Jr. It makes other players want to go there. And then on top of it, for coaches, when you see Sean McVay is not reluctant to block every coaching candidate, then coaches are going to want to go there because they look at it as a launching pad, and it makes a lot of sense. So, I'm happy for Raheem. I hope, whatever he wants is what he gets. But, I definitely think he'd be, a loss, and he's done an incredible job, with everything given to him and obviously all the pressure put on him to match that number one defense. I think he's done an incredible job down the stretch here to the point where that defense is almost where it was last year at this point in the season.
Yeah. And that kind of leads us, you bring up Sean McVay, and I wanted to talk about the Rams offense as well. And I'm going to start with Sean McVay because we know that he calls the plays for the Rams offense. And Jake, it took 18 games, but Sean McVay finally decided to stick with the run. It is something that we have been pounding the table for all season, as have many Rams fans, of sticking with the run, not forcing the pass, and good things will happen. And look at what happened. Now, this could be because Cam Akers was back, and maybe for some reason Sean McVay isn't as inclined to stick with the run with just Sony Michel or Darrell Henderson. Could make sense. I would make the argument that I think we still would have been successful sticking with the run with those guys because it worked throughout the season. But Jake, do you think that the run game, when you look at the Rams offense against the Cardinals, Matthew Stafford also did play very well, and we'll talk about him too. He was much better with his accuracy and decision making this game than he has been towards the end of the season. But do you think that one of the reasons we were able to gain positive momentum on offense is because we kept running the ball, because we kept giving Cam Akers and Sony Michel those opportunities? Because in my opinion, it worked. We saw, the Cardinals don't have a shabby defense. I don't know that they're fully healthy, but they're mostly healthy. And typically, they can do okay against the run, but we just kept pounding the rock and it worked. And Cam Akers, by the way, you want to talk about incredible and an amazing playoff performance and performance in general 6 months after tearing his Achilles. Absolutely phenomenal performance from Cam Akers. That was so fun to watch. And it was so, I tweeted yesterday that I could cry watching him this healthy and thriving. It was just so fun to watch. But Jake, again, back to the run game. Is this what the Rams had been missing this season? When we kept falling short and struggling on offense, should we have done this? It might be an obvious question, but should we have done this a lot sooner?
Well, I mean, they have been running the ball since the Packers game. That's really when everything changed. They changed their, outlook on things. They opened it up the running game. They, started using more 12 personnel and 13 personnel every now and then. And what that does is it makes, obviously you're going to have another blocker in there, whether it's 3 tight ends, another offensive lineman, what have you. So, I do think they have committed to the run, obviously a little bit more than before. Now, ironically, the reason they lost the Niners game is that they couldn't run the ball and they continued to run the ball. So I don't think that it's necessarily that they stopped running and then they started in this game. I think it was a collective thing. I think they used everything to complement each other. I think, the passing game was used. They used play action. Obviously Stafford did a great job stepping up in the pocket, even took off and ran a couple times. Actually had more rushing yards, I believe, than Kyler Murray, which was absolutely shocking to me. But, I look at it and I think Cam Akers, the only nitpick that I would have of this offense, and I can't really entirely blame the Rams because this game was not really close at any point. It felt like the Rams were dominant. And on top of it, when you look at it, especially with Cam Akers, he's coming off that injury. So, obviously you don't want to put him, too much out there and put him in position to get hurt again. But my only nitpick was that he didn't get used as much as he could have. I mean, honestly, I look at this game and I'm like, this is what we mean when he's just so much better than Sony Michel. Michel's solid. Michel gets you, 13 carries for 58 yards, 4.5 yard per carry. Okay, that's fine. Cam Akers had 3.2 yards per carry. So you would think he didn't play that well, 17 carries, 55 yards. A lot of those carries that he had that he really just was about to house, they got called back. I mean, he had over 40 yards of offense that was called back due to penalties. So then you look at him in the passing attack and, he has a catch for 40 yards. They try to get him involved a second time on a deep wheel route that, he'll probably have the next time Stafford throws that. They just aren't on the same page yet. This is one of the dangerous offensive players in the league. I'm going to call it like it is. I think we saw in this game, Cam Akers should be the bell cow. Not even, they don't even, like, here's the thing. You don't need to switch to Sony Michel just to switch to Sony Michel. Cam Akers offers the boom that Sony Michel offers. He's faster. And really all you're doing is when you switch to Sony Michel at times in the game that don't make sense, say you run a pitch that probably would have been a first down with Cam Akers. Sony Michel doesn't have the speed to turn the corner the way Cam Akers does. So it actually puts you at a disadvantage. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Michel and what he's meant to the Rams down the stretch, but I do think, in this game against Tampa, who has been really good against the run all season and pretty much the most dominant run defensive team the last 2 years, keep this in mind because no one is talking about this. They are 6th in the league right now over the last 3 games in yards per rush attempt allowed. They're averaging 5.1 yards per attempt, which is something that isn't being discussed because Tampa is just known as being a dominant run defense. But you look at the Eagles, the thing is they got behind a little bit earlier than they wanted to, and so they abandoned the run. But in total, they may not have had a 100-yard rusher, but in total, they averaged 95. So they went for 95 yards and 17 carries, averaged 5.6 yards per carry. This is a Tampa defense that I think right now you can run against more than ever. Last time the Rams played Tampa, they held Sony Michel under 70 yards rushing in that game. Darrell Henderson was out, and of course they didn't see Cam Akers. Cam Akers, through the first 2 games of last year in the playoffs, the first 2 weeks of the playoffs, he led the league in rushing. Okay. We finally see him. He gets 95 yards in his second game. To me, he is the X factor. He is the engine. He is what is going to take your offense to the next level. And he's really what's going to be able to cause the Buccaneers fits as long as you know how to use him. And so for that reason, I think the only nitpick I would have with the way they played against Arizona is that they took him out at times where I felt like he was ready to really take off. And when you're, constantly swapping guys in and out, you have to keep this in mind. These guys, when you're running the ball, it is about being in a rhythm. And Cam Akers is a streaky and a rhythm runner. When you take him out of the game and you put in Sony Michel, you're taking him out of his rhythm. So I'm not really a huge fan of that. But a win is certainly a win. It is a very impressive win, the most complete win. I'm not trying to be anti and negative or anything like that. I'm just saying it's a good thing. Cam Akers is not just a guy. He's not just going to be, okay, he's pretty solid. I'd argue he's more explosive than he was the last time we saw him, and that's saying a lot.
I agree. I mean, he came back from his injury, again, as weird as it sounds, better than ever. At least that's how it appeared. And I have to believe that he's only going to get better from here because, even though he looked 100%, odds are he probably wasn't 100%. I mean, he tore his Achilles 6 months ago. So I think he's going to be even better as the postseason goes on and into next season. But Jake, overall, again, this game, it just feels so good to see a Rams game that just was complete from start to finish. Like I said earlier, this feels like the most complete game that we've played all season, and we're in the playoffs, which is strange, but also a really good sign because we go to Tampa Bay in less than a week. We play on Sunday, and we're going to have a preview episode about that, so we're not going to talk about what that matchup's going to look like in this episode. But Jake, it feels like we have a really positive momentum right now. It feels like this game went exactly how we wanted it to go, and that means only good things going into Tampa. And of course, Tampa's a different team than Arizona is. We'll discuss that, but I think that Rams fans should be very excited right now, feel very upbeat, and I think that the Rams players obviously probably feel that way. So there's not much else to talk about, thankfully. I mean, there's no major error happened. So I think that's going to do it for us. But guys, please stay tuned. We will be back in a few days with our preview episode. And I want to do 2 quick plugs real quick. Prize Picks. Prize Picks is one of our sponsors. It's a great app to make bets on for players during games. Jake and I both use it. I mentioned it earlier in the episode. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun. It gives you not only the opportunity to bet on the NFL, but you can bet on pretty much every sport. That's Prize Picks in the App Store. And if you use our code of DTRAMS, that's DT Rams, you'll get 100% deposit match when you sign up using our code, which is awesome. So definitely take advantage of that. Second, I just did a autographed Aaron Donald jersey giveaway through my Twitter with MVP Authentics, and we will be doing another Rams giveaway later this week to prepare for the matchup against Tampa. So if you don't follow me on Twitter already, that's at the Alexis Craft. Make sure you're there. Make sure you're following me so you don't miss out on an autographed Rams item. And follow Jake at JKBogan on Twitter as well. You can also follow us on all social medias at Downtown Rams. And as always, guys, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. Like I said, we will be back later this week with another episode. But until then, guys, stay safe, take care, and go Rams. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DTR at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and make sure to use code DTR. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Prize Picks is the best app you've never heard of. You can choose between stars from all sports, 2, 3, 4, or even 5 players to increase how much money you win. Join Prize Picks today by using our promo code DTRAMS and get a double deposit on your first deposit when signing up with Prize Picks.